thought I found the one. Not the love at first sight or dramatic romance like in the movies, but a quiet but confident feeling. Someone who makes me believe that after all I've been through, there can still be a new beginning. I'm Andrew, 36 years old. Mechanical engineer, divorced 4 years ago. And above all, I'm a father to Katie, a 9-year-old girl I've always considered the center of my universe. Every week, I take my daughter to live with me for 3 days. Even though Laura and I are no longer together, we still work together to raise our daughter in a very civilized manner. There is no tension, no cruel words. There is only responsibility and love for our daughter. Katie is a special girl. She is a little shy with strangers, but once we get to know her, she is very talkative. She loves Lego, loves coloring, and recently she even tricked me into making TikToks with her, so rustic dances, that's what she calls them. I don't have much, but I have her, and that I think is enough. Until I met Elisa. We met at a tech conference in Dallas. I was struggling with a coffee I had accidentally spilled when she came over, wiped it up for me, and made a joke. Razor sharp, but laughable. Elisa was unlike anyone I had ever dated. She was a project manager for an urban development company, a charismatic conversationalist with enthusiasm that carried her like she had just won a big deal. Softly curly hair, deep brown eyes, and a deep, witty voice. The conversation that day didn't stop at coffee, and over the next several months, we went out to eat, to exhibitions, to walks in the park every weekend. She liked cats. I liked dogs. She was a black tea drinker, I was an espresso drinker, and yet it all fit together strangely. I used to think I would never love anyone again because of my daughter, because of the scars of my previous divorce. But Elisa made me believe that maybe this time would be different. And most of all, I thought that Katie would like her too. The first time I introduced the two of us, Katie looked at her shyly and then timidly held out her hand. I'm Katie. Elisa smiled, not too friendly, but not cold either. We went out for pizza. The evening passed peacefully, or so I thought. Almost a year later, I proposed to Elisa. One afternoon in May, the same picnic in the park where she first told me about her dream of becoming a planner. She said yes without thinking, and I remember laughing until my jaw hurt. I felt like my life was entering a new chapter, happier, more fulfilling. A new family, but not leaving the old one behind, because Katie was always indispensable to me. Little did I know that in that nod, there was something unspoken, something that would later force me to stop everything. I remember the day so clearly, a Saturday evening, the two of us sitting in my small kitchen. Katie was painting in the living room, and Elisa and I were going over rough sketches for the wedding. The invitations were simple. The backdrop was cream. The venue was a riverside restaurant in Austin, where we'd spent our first weekend. Everything seemed to be going right. I looked up from my laptop as if something had just occurred. What if Katie said something at the wedding like a short toast? I didn't say it out loud. It wasn't a pushy request. Just a suggestion. I could see her getting excited whenever the wedding was mentioned. Elisa smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. Her lips pursed a little. Her fingers kept turning the plan pages, but her eyes stayed on the same page. Let's see. She said, then changed the subject to the main floral arrangement. I'm leaning toward peonies over roses. What do you think? I paused, but I didn't think much of it. Maybe she felt it was too early to decide. I continued the evening feeling uneasy, but thought, maybe I'm just being too sensitive. A few days later, as we were running through the guest list, I repeated it more gently this time. Just a short one, Elisa. Katie loves to read poetry. She can write something. She doesn't have to be on stage. It will make her feel part of the special day. This time, she didn't smile. Instead, there was a tiny nod and a sentence. Yeah, later. I still don't know the exact ceremony format. Something was wrong. I started to notice. The meetings between the three of them gradually became less frequent. Before, Elisa would try to talk to Katie awkwardly, but she tried. Not anymore. One time, she showed her a drawing of the three of them sitting in a wedding car. Me driving Katie in the middle, Elisa in the passenger seat. Elisa smiled faintly, said it was cute, and put the drawing face on the table. I started to feel frustrated, but I reassured myself. Maybe she's not used to being a stepmother yet. Everyone needs time to adjust. But time has not helped. On the contrary, whenever I mention Katie's involvement in the wedding, the mood becomes heavy. She doesn't get angry, doesn't openly object. She dodges. Sometimes she says she's tired. Sometimes she pretends not to hear. Sometimes she changes the subject to the cake supplier. One night when Katie went to her mother's house, I asked her directly, no beating around the bush. Elisa, I need you to be honest. I looked into her eyes more serious than ever. You don't want Katie at the wedding, do you? No more avoiding. She stopped, letting out a sigh. Andrew, I know you love her. I understand, but I don't want her in the wedding photos. I don't want to see your past every time I look back at the wedding album. I froze. She didn't speak loudly. She didn't scream, but each word cut into me like a knife. Katie is not my past, I replied. My voice choked. She is my present, my flesh and blood, my future. I know. But I also have the right to want to start a new life, a new family. Free from the old, Elisa replied without hesitation. At that moment, I understood she didn't just not want Katie at the wedding. She didn't want Katie in life together, ours. She doesn't accept my daughter, never. And that, I can't accept. I sat there motionless in the familiar kitchen, once filled with laughter, now eerily silent. I don't remember how long I looked at Elisa. I only remember repeating one sentence in my head. Did she just say that I took a breath, trying to keep my voice calm? Elisa, do you understand what I just said? You're telling me, if you could, you'd like my daughter to disappear from the picture of our lives. I didn't say that. She countered, her eyes never leaving her cold tea on the table. I just said, it would be better if we had a clean start, no strings attached. I don't hate her, it's just, every time I see Katie, I feel like I'm the replacement. I don't want that. I laughed, not a happy laugh, but the laugh of someone who has just realized they have invested their heart in the wrong place. Clean, I repeated the word. Elisa, this is real life, not a blueprint you can erase and redo to make it prettier. Katie is my child, my daughter. There is no encumbering here. You're overreacting. She began raising her voice, and for the first time I saw an unexpected coldness in that face, the face that had once made me think of this as my companion. Overreacting? I stood up, my voice low. You told my daughter not to be present at the wedding or in our married life, and now you say I'm overreacting. She stood up too, crossing her arms over her chest. So what I've been trying to accept her for the past year. But I'm tired. I don't want to spend my life in the shadow of a child I didn't give birth to. My heart clenched. Not with pain, but with disappointment. There were no words to cover it up. You know what I said slowly, each word cutting through the air. I don't need a wife if she can't love my daughter. Andrew. No, I interrupted. Don't say another word. I won't marry you. I can't. Silence fell over the kitchen. Then Elisa took a step back, her face pale. Are you serious? I nodded. The wedding is off. You can keep the dress. You can keep the venue. You can keep everything. But not me if you can't handle what comes with me. And you couldn't. She didn't say anything else. She just turned and walked out the door, as if she were the one who had been betrayed. I stood there listening to the footsteps fade away, then the door shut. Not an angry slam, but a clean, clean finale, just how she wanted her life to be. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just sat on the couch, my hands on the table, as if to keep myself from drifting away. And then, reflexively, I opened my phone. The screen was filled with a photo Katie and I at the park last week. She was smiling, wearing a Daddy's Sunshine hoodie and a vanilla ice cream mouthful. I looked at that photo for a long time. The initial feeling was not pain, but lightness. Lightness like cutting off a fake thing that had been maintained for too long. I didn't know what to tell Katie, but I knew one thing: I had just done the best thing I'd done since becoming a father. 3 days after I broke off the engagement, Elisa texted. One short line, "Are you sure we can talk again?" I read the message at 10 p.m. when Katie was fast asleep on the sofa clutching her stuffed cat Marshmallow. I looked at the pale blue text on the screen, and then put the phone face down on the table, not replying. Not because I'm still angry, not because I want to punish her, but because I know there are things that cannot be turned back once their true nature is revealed. Elisa texted a few more times over the next 2 days. Once, by voicemail, her voice was hoarse, a little apologetic, but still firm. I don't hate Katie. I just think maybe it would be easier if she lived with her mother. I think we deserve a start, Andrew. I listened to the message just once, then I deleted it. And this time I blocked the number. Not necessarily out of resentment, it's just I've chosen my path, and that path leaves no room for anyone to make my daughter back down. Strangely, I don't feel regret. A little empty, yes, but regret, no. I spent the next 2 days just hanging out with Katie. We made a pillow fort in the living room, turned on cartoons, ate popcorn, and fell asleep on the floor like 2 kids. I told stories, drew pictures, and even let her paint my nails purple. Because Daddy's the princess captain today, I'm not in a hurry to talk about the wedding. Just trying to create lots of laughter. But children are always more perceptive than we think. That evening, as I removed the stickers from my forehead, Katie looked at me, her eyes wide. Dad, what about Elisa? I paused, then slowly sat down next to her. Elisa will not marry me anymore, my child. Katie was silent for a moment. I didn't rush to say more. I gave her time to process it in her way. Is it because I'm not good at being a bridesmaid? Her voice was small, as if she was afraid of breaking something. I hugged her tightly. No, honey. You are perfect. It is because I love you so much that I could not marry someone who did not love you as much as I love you. Katie said nothing more, just buried her head in my chest. A few minutes later, she looked up, her expression comically serious. Anyway, I like it, just the 2 of us. No need to split pizza. I burst out laughing, unable to hold back my tears. That 9-year-old girl didn't need me to explain any further. She understood and forgave. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. Not free from being out of a relationship, but from being true to my priorities, not pretending, not bending to fit someone else's mold. We went out to the park the next morning. It was a fabulous June day, the sun casting a thin layer of light over the grass. Katie rode around on her bike, her hair flying, laughing. I sat on the bench, coffee in hand, feeling light. That's when I realized I had nothing to lose. I protected the most precious thing, the unconditional love between a father and his little daughter. The following days passed like a warm stream of water. Not exciting, not intense, but gradually seeping into every corner of me where I had been dried up by trying to please others. I started doing the things I had forgotten. I repainted the bedroom. Not because I had to, but because Katie said she wanted it to have new energy. I let her pick the color, and not surprisingly, it was mint green with a rainbow glow-in-the-dark decal on the ceiling. I changed my schedule, cut down on shifts, turned down a big project so I could be home on weekends. Some people said I was crazy. refusing more income at the peak of my career. But I didn't need more money. I needed time. I cooked more and more clumsily. Katie scored each dish with facial expressions, "Dad, today's pasta is 6.5. But 2 points for not burning the pan. We learned to dance again, not for TikTok, just because Katie put on a song and said, "Dad, do the weirdo dance." And I didn't say no. Once, while cutting paper to make a birthday card for her grandmother, Katie looked up and asked, "Are you sad, Dad, because you didn't marry Elisa?" I thought briefly and then said honestly, Dad was sad. But not sad because he lost her. Sad because he didn't realize sooner that no one is allowed to love him if they don't love you too. The girl nodded as if she understood in that childish way. Then she bent down and continued taping the misshapen paper flower. I looked at my child and wondered how many moments like this have I given up before, just to chase after an imaginary perfect family. The answer is too much. One day, as I picked Katie up from art class, her teacher pulled me aside. "Andrew," she said, "Katie is excellent. But what makes her special is that she always draws 2 people, an adult and a little girl. Not princesses or castles, but 2 people doing ordinary things, eating pizza, making pillow forts, painting walls together." I smiled, thanked her, and held Katie's hand tightly. We walked home, the sun setting slowly behind the trees. Neither of us said much, just small and large footsteps side by side in the same direction. I opened my laptop and typed a few lines in my diary that night. I was afraid I would forget this feeling, not because I usually write. Happiness isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about being true to your non-negotiable. For me, that's my daughter. And if that means starting over, then it's worth it. I used to think that family had to have enough people, roles, and forms. A father, a mother, children, a house with cozy dinners and laughter echoing throughout the room. Now, I think differently. A family sometimes only needs 2 people, as long as neither of them feels left out. Since the Elisa thing ended, I haven't been in a rush to open up again. I haven't shut down completely. I've just learned to be more selective. Not because I'm afraid of getting hurt, but because I know more than ever what's non-negotiable. My daughter Katie is not an optional extra. She's my core, my prerequisite. Sometimes I miss Elisa, or rather, the idea of a double life I once pursued. But then I remember the look in Katie's eyes when she said, "Just the 2 of us. No need to split the pizza." And I laughed. I'm not alone. I have a child, and she has me. One evening, while father and daughter were playing Ludo, Katie suddenly said, "Dad, if you marry anyone in the future, they have to like my favorite pizza." I nodded, pretending to be serious. "We must sign the contract first. And you have to know how to draw cats. If you don't know how to draw cats, you fail." "Exactly," I replied, laughing. "Drawing cats is the most important criterion for choosing a wife." Then father and son burst out laughing. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if I'll ever meet someone who will accept my past, present, and future, including the little girl with the marshmallow cat and the never-ending passion for Lego. But now I know I will not compromise anymore. I know what is enough, and who is enough. If you are a single parent and feel lost among the choices, remember it is never too much to love your child. And anyone who sees your child as a barrier doesn't deserve to step into the future with you. I tell this story not to complain, but to remind myself, and maybe you, that sometimes the hardest choice is the right choice. And on days when it feels like you're losing everything, you may have just kept the most precious thing. If you have experienced anything similar, please share in the comments. I read them all. And if this story makes you think of someone, send it to them. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on real stories like this.